for the Conservancy of gathering together in person. So thank you for being here. We're really delighted that you came. Thank you for complying with our vaccination requests and our masking, and for bringing your good cheer to celebrate conservation accomplishments and vision with us tonight. I have a number of thanks, and I'm going to sort of be taking care of some of the formalities before we get into the program. I'm leaving the real meat of the program to our very capable staff, who you'll be hearing from shortly. But I want to start by thanking the Ruby River Hotel and 3 very generous donors who completely underwrote the cost of tonight's event. So thank you for that very generous contribution. At your tables, hopefully you've had a chance to read one of there's a little table tent there that tells a story about the greens, the greenery that is decorating your table. And I want to recognize, honor, and thank Kirk and Madeline David, from whose land some of these greens come, as well as Wes Hansen and Teresa Schaffer and Al and Kathy Anderson, all conservation landowners who have contributed the greens to tonight's event. They were artfully assembled by a highly sought-after flower decorator, arranger here in Spokane, a woman named Nancy Schaub, aka my mom. Tonight we'll be seeing 2 videos, and I want to thank our media sponsors for those, the Hamilton Studio and Rogue Heart Media. Megan Kennedy from Rogue Heart is here with us tonight, and I think you'll find her work to be very moving. It's going to be the culmination of our show tonight. We also have a number of our conservation partners in the room. We have friends from the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Dishman Hills Conservancy, the Lands Council, and Spokane Riverkeeper here with us tonight. So let's recognize and thank all of them for their work. And then, crucially, I want to thank you all, our community of conservation supporters. You are donors, you are volunteers, you are conservation landowners, you are our support, and you are our guidance, and you are our motivation in the work that we do. So thank you all for being here tonight. So we really, as a staff of the Inland Northwest Land Conservancy, feel honored to do this work on behalf of the community of plants and animals and people who make this region our home. And thanks to your support, we've been able to grow our team in the last year with the addition of 2 new staff members. I want to recognize Casey Bader, who's operating our technology tonight, and Mike Crabtree, our new land protection specialist. So they, along with Carol Corbin, Chris Deforest, Rose Richardson, Vicki Eggesdahl, Todd Dunfield, and myself, are really honored to serve as the staff of your Conservancy. So it's been 2 years since we gathered, and a lot has gone on during that time, obviously in the world at large, but also for the work of the Inland Northwest Land Conservancy. And you'll be hearing about some of that work tonight. We're not going to go through an exhaustive laundry list of all accomplishments. But what I want to share with you is some of the work that our board did over the last year and a half with our staff to provide really essential refinement of our work and for our work. So we dug into nobody's favorite work, mission, vision, and values. But what it provided was an opportunity to really think deeply about that which matters to us as an organization and where we fit within the landscape of other conservation organizations working in our region. And so we started off with a refinement of our mission. Our new mission reads as follows: we conserve, care for, and connect with lands and waters essential to life in the Inland Northwest. What I've been told is a good mark of or a mark of a good mission statement is something that's concise and memorizable. You won't be tested on it later tonight, but the mission really does capture what is essential to us as an organization and how we structure our program work. So you'll be hearing from our Conserve team tonight, from our Care For team tonight, and from our Connect team tonight. So that mission serves a larger vision, which we believe is shared by the other conservation partners and agencies that are in this room. And that is a vision of a future of interconnected natural habitats throughout the inland Northwest, supporting thriving populations of native plants and wildlife, respected and enjoyed by all who call this region home. So that's a big, broad vision and something that we alone can't achieve. But in partnership and collaboration with our community of conservation-minded individuals like yourself and supporting agencies, I think we can make progress towards that vision. And so it is that vision and mission that will guide our work in the coming years. Additionally, we've identified 4 core values. And first and foremost, no surprise, is a love of nature. I think, like you all, I experienced a real reconnect with the natural world especially during the early months of the COVID shutdown, when everyone suddenly discovered the joys of being outdoors. And walking outdoors quietly in the woods has become, I know for many of us, a real refuge and a sanctuary during hard times. And it is that love of nature that drives our work. Additionally, we value perpetuity. We're in this for the long haul. We steward lands and resources so that our work outlives us. We make our land protection decisions based on discernment. We make choices based in science that maximize our enduring conservation impact. And then lastly, and incredibly significantly, we value collaboration, which is why I'm so glad that many of our conservation partners and agencies are in the room with us tonight. Because we know that through building relationships, we can deliver larger, greater, more enduring results. So as we take that work of refining our vision, our mission, our values, we're looking forward as we map our new priorities and we select our next projects to dive into. We are seeking and evaluating new projects and funding sources right now to accelerate our conservation impact across the region. We're building partnerships to engage new communities in our work, especially as we look for ways to connect urban populations with the natural wildlands of our rural corners of our community and our region. And we really recognize that this is shared work. And that's why we're so delighted again to gather with you, our community, a community that supports conservation, inspires conservation, and celebrates conservation. So with that, I'm going to introduce Chris Deforest, and thank you once again for being with us here tonight. Chris Deforest is well known and beloved to many of you. For those of you who are newer supporters, Chris has been with the Conservancy since 1996. He's served in just about every role imaginable at the Conservancy. So take it away, Chris.
Well, thank you, Dave. I'm delighted to be here as part of a more than one-person conservation team. I'm here with Rose Richardson, Mike Crabtree, Todd Dunfield, and part of Dave's shop, and our map-making genius Eric Erickson, and our Land Protection Committee, Lisa Langelier, and others, and our Land Protection Committee Chair, Lindsay Chudas. Lindsay, there we go. All right. So tonight I've got 2 things for you. First, I've got what's new in saving the best of the inland Northwest, and I've got a taste of what's in the works. So this is about new land conservation, the conserved part of our work in our territory here. It does not include, here we go, it does not include the amazing work on caring for the land and connecting people with nature. You'll hear about that from Todd and Rose when we get to those. So since the last time we met, your Conservancy has created or added to 3 nature preserves in Spokane County. So places you can go. So first, we bought the Waikiki Springs Nature Preserve. Raise your hand if you've heard of the Waikiki Springs Nature Preserve. Keep your hand up if you've been there, and still higher if you've worked on a work party there. Even better. For those of you following along at home, you can put something in the chat about, yes, I've worked on one of those work parties. It's right on the Little Spokane River. It's about 8 miles north of here. It's where 15 million gallons a day of cold aquifer water gush out of the hillsides and come into the Little Spokane River. It's one of those cold spots on the river, which is really significant. Along with some state Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife land, there's about 200 acres of land there now for hiking and nature study, and more about that later on from Todd. So that was one, and we bought the 10th and final piece in the Rimrock to Riverside puzzle. So, yes. So many of you know that about 4 miles west of here, City Parks has 700 acres of parks and Indian Canyon golf course. And then there's 10,000 acres of Riverside State Park just a little ways away, about 120 acres separate the two, 10 parcels. That gap has been there forever. You've all heard of Palisades. Some of you have, how many of you have been on work parties with Rose out there? Yes, all right. Restoring habitat, native plants, we'll hear more about that too. But piece by piece, your Conservancy and some angel investors have bought all 10 missing pieces that make up that 120-acre missing link between the two, so that the two parks can be joined now, and there can be soon an 11-mile trail and wildlife corridor from Spokane to 9 Mile Falls by connecting these two parks. So thank yourselves for doing that. So that's the Rimrock to Riverside puzzle, which we are very close to solving and bridging. So, but wait, there's more. We also bought land for hiking and habitat at Salty's Uplands. How many of you have heard of Salty's Uplands and been there? Great. It's about 13 miles east of here, just shy of Liberty Lake. We bought 3 pieces of land there in the last year, adding to the 552-acre Spokane County Salty's Uplands Conservation Area. Between the Salty's Uplands and Salty's Wetlands across the road, there's now almost 1,200 acres of public land to roam and 12 miles of trails there or in the works. So that's our second success for the year. And there may be other successes afoot. And your Conservancy is on the Spirit of Spokane campaign. So imagine 18,000 acres of working forests on the flanks of Mount Spokane, on the eastern flanks, to be permanently dedicated to public fishing, hunting, hiking, wildlife viewing, and berry picking, as well as forestry. It's the forested foothills above Spirit Lake and Twin Lakes. Inland Empire Paper Company enlisted your Conservancy and a national group to find the federal funding to make it a reality. It's going to take time. We're going to do it. And we're tackling another 18,000 acres in the Idaho Panhandle with the same program with Stimson Lumber Company. So that's what we've completed in about the last year. And thank you for making all that possible. And now I want to tell you a little bit about our ongoing work, because you're making that possible too. This stuff takes time, but it's worth it. So here's a quick look at some of the dozen projects in the works with willing private landowners in Idaho and Washington. And that's not including the 2 big timber deals that I just told you about. This year's project pipeline is about a dozen properties, about 1,500 acres, about 7 miles of lake shores and stream corridors. You'll be hearing about them as they happen through our newsletter, emails, and social media. So that's Carol and Casey. Sign up if you haven't already to hear about things as they happen, and at the next annual meeting. So here are a few of the new deals that Mike Crabtree and I are hatching. The day after tomorrow, we are signing the 4th conservation deal along the Coeur d'Alene River with private landowners in the Restoration Partnership. This one's 129 acres of lands to be dedicated to migratory birds and other wildlife at Canyon Marsh, which is near Rose Lake off of I-90. It's a huge project, and it adds to the hundreds of acres that we've already protected there. Your Conservancy and our agency and tribal partners are protecting the land from unwanted developments and at the same time allowing the floodplains to be cleansed of a century of toxic mining wastes so that in the future migratory birds, tundra swans, and others will be able to feed safely in the shallows and not ingest toxic sediments. So it's a protect, clean up, and restore projects all along the Coeur d'Alene River. In the next couple of months, your Conservancy will be protecting forest and farm habitat along a tributary to Hangman Creek, a pristine bay on Lake Coeur d'Alene, lush restored wetlands in the Spokane Valley, and a working forest overlooking the Rathdrum Prairie. Next spring and summer, in addition to the food, you're going to want to come back next year and hear how all this played out. Next spring and summer, your Conservancy will protect another 200 acres of land around Lake Pend Oreille and several places in and close to Spokane and to Coeur d'Alene and on the Spokane River and more. So stay tuned. I have to say that I'm delighted to have Mike Crabtree on this team. Your Conservancy is getting more land protection done faster and smarter, and Mike is tuning our systems so that the Conservancy can best choose the projects that will have the greatest impact over time, impact toward the 30 by 30 goal, and choosing land with the greatest resilience to climate change, the greatest diversity, and the great connection to other wildlife habitats, and the greatest opportunities for connections to nature. And about those connections to nature, I'm going to turn you over to Todd Dunfield, our Community Conservation Program Manager. So,
thanks, Chris. Good evening, everyone. I like to say that I have the best job at INLC. I get to take people out on the land and connect them to nature. And I'm going to pick up right where Chris left off with some really good news this evening. He spoke about Rimrock to Riverside and our Saltese Uplands Conservation Futures nominations, and that the pieces of the puzzle were coming together. And after about 3 years of hard work by many people in this room, I'm pleased to announce that last night, unanimously, the Spokane County Commissioners voted to authorize or ratify and agree to the current ranked system for the Conservation Futures nominations. And so in that ranking, number 1 is Rimrock to Riverside, and number 2 is Saltese Uplands. Huge win, huge win. Thank you to everyone in the room who helped make that happen. The next question on your mind is probably, when is this going to start taking place? And Paul Knowles, along with us, really hope that 2022 will be a great year for the Conservancy to get those pieces of land into permanent protection with Spokane County. So yeah, moving on from that good news, one of the things that I've been really busy with this last 9 months has been to improve the public access at Waikiki Springs. And what that really looks like is trail work. And raise your hand if you've done trail work again. Sally, Dave, a number of you in this room have come out. Barb Markill, thank you, Barb. The numbers tell a story. We had 19 volunteer work parties to build trails out there this summer and into the fall. And we completed 831 hours of volunteer service in that endeavor. And so I don't want to hear any one of you in the room say that you're too old, because my oldest volunteer was 81 years of age. He did go home at noon to take a nap, which I loved. I fully support that behavior as well. He was a great volunteer. But if you go out there, you will see one new loop trail, and you'll also see some new trail signs that help people find their way around to, seeing some head nodding in the audience. Some of you have found them, some of you have got out there. My favorite story was from a volunteer, Sue, who was in pharmaceutical sales before COVID. Now she's between jobs. Some of you worked with her out there. You know Sue. Sue was a 125-pound sopping wet, and we were using rock bars to move boulders, 600-pound boulders. And Sue was watching, and I could see that, I've got my hands on the rock bar. I'm trying to do this. I go, Sue, do you want to try this? Do you want to do this? And she goes, no, I can't. I don't, I'm so light. I can't. I was like, come here, try. And to watch a volunteer get their hands dirty and to move that boulder. She moved that boulder, and she was so proud of herself. She was just glowing. And that is one of many stories of how people just engaged in the land, found their own niche and left, happier. And so I just told Dave in one of our meetings, I said, I think when I go out to Waikiki Springs, it reminds me of Cheers, because if everybody knows your name, right? Like, they know each other's names. The community of people who hike there daily, who take care of the place, the sense of ownership, they pick up the trash. When they see people doing stuff they shouldn't, like have dogs off leash, they'll confront them. I'm just amazed at how the community is coming around this one of many land protection projects that we have in your community. But that's not all. Building trails is only the first part of what I've been busy doing. I've also been laying the foundation for doing more student engagement on the land. Waikiki Springs has a number of different goals, and one of them that's not forgotten or lost on us is an educational goal for students of all ages. So that's college students, that's K-12, to get out there and to learn about clean water. The Riverkeeper would love that, right? And to learn about the land, learn what land conservation today looks like. And so proud to report that Whitworth, Gonzaga, St. George's, they were all out there this fall as soon as school was back in session. Even some of the Meade cross-country runners who used the trails came out and worked on trails. But really, this is about learning. This is about the students, picking up some sort of new science knowledge, meeting those curricular goals, but getting outside the four walls of the classroom. And so we're really excited to see that, and I'm happy to say that I'm meeting with a Meade teacher on Friday, and I'm meeting with all of the Meade School District secondary principals next week. So Darren Nelson, if anybody knows him in the Meade District, please give him a big fist pump from me, because he's been great in making those connections. But let's talk about the future and some of our partnerships. So we're at a place where we're closing the books on R2R and Saltese, where we feel like those are accomplished after last night's vote. But we're really looking towards where does the community need us to go next? Where are the next community conservation projects? And so that's keeping our ear to the grindstone. That's listening to you all. Do pick up the phone, call us. Waikiki Springs was conserved because the Fairwood neighborhood was afraid they were going to lose their switchbacks. And so we're wondering, where are the next switchbacks? Where is the next community project that we need to be involved with? So you're going to see the Conservancy getting out there and trying to find that next project. We're also going to deepen our relationships with key partners, one of them being the Spokane Tribe of Indians. Some of you know that we've been working towards that for a number of years, but as the community conservation voice in the organization, that is a place where I'm going to be putting a fair amount of my time going forward. And then last but not least, let's talk a little bit about trail work in 2022, because I think you're all possible recruits in this room. This map that you see on the left is what a lot of people have been hoping for a while, an up-to-date map that shows both the lands owned by WDFW as well as the lands owned by INLC. So this map is being produced right now, printed, and there'll be 2 going in on the land in the next week. So Merry Christmas, everyone. We have good maps. But we also are going to have work parties starting in April. So here's a couple dates. If you have your calendars, just get them out and pencil them in, would you? Because I would love to see you out there. And I tell Dave that trail work is a really great community engagement tool. I've been able to meet so many people and deepen the relationship with the Conservancy and with the land. If you come on one of my hikes, I have you for 2 or 3 hours. If you come out and do trail work, we're there for 7 hours. So think about all the great topics we can cover and how deep we can go. So yeah, make a New Year's resolution, come and do trail work. We would love to see you out on the land. So thank you so much. I'm not going to... What's that? April 1st? It's not April Fool's Day. We're really doing trail work on April 1st. Unless there's a blizzard, right? If the ground is still frozen, I'll take a pass on that one. But sign up tonight. The registration on the website is live. You can sign up for those tonight, and I'll remind you as the date comes closer. You signed up. But next up, not to talk about trail work, but to talk about some really great enhanced stewardship things, is my colleague Rose Richardson. Please welcome Rose to the podium.
I'm the stewardship manager here at the Conservancy, and I'm really excited to be able to give you an update on the enhanced stewardship program this year. So, yes, perfect. So before we go too deep into what the program does, I feel like it's maybe worth it to describe what the program is and how it fits into our mission, which has kind of updated over the last year. So we take perpetuity pretty seriously here at the Conservancy. It's kind of our gig, right? So stewardship has a couple different levels at INLC. We have basic stewardship, which is just taking care of the lands that we've helped to protect in the most basic sense, right? So annual monitoring, which we do at both our conservation easements and at our preserves. We have some of our conservation easement landowners here tonight, Kirk and Madeline David, who donated some of the lovely greenery here. We also have folks watching at home, the Takais, Deborah Schultz and Penn Fix. We've got lots of conservation easement landowners that we work with annually to make sure that they have the support that they need so that we enable them to be good stewards. Most of them don't need us at all. They're conservation people, they know what they're doing. But we try to be good stewards of those relationships. But we also provide defense in the event of a violation, things like illegal timber harvest or encroachment or trespass, things like that, so that we're actually taking care of those lands. They stay in a natural state. We also do basic and required management on our preserves, things like weed control. And so that's kind of the basic stewardship, if you will. That's what we're required to do on an annual basis. What I'm going to talk about tonight is enhanced stewardship. That's a brand spanking new program to INLC. That's the program that I manage. And that's more of our on-the-ground volunteer engagement kind of projects. That's tree planting, tree thinning, pulling weeds, get your hands dirty. That's citizen science projects like BioBlitz, where we go out and get all kinds of different data points so that we understand our landscape better. That's more education and education support, engaging the next generation of stewards, because that is so, so important. We can protect our lands, we can steward our lands. If the next generation doesn't care, it's all for nothing, right? So it's really important to foster that next generation of stewards. And it's all thanks to a lot of volunteer support. I know there are many volunteers in this room, actually. If I could actually get anyone who has volunteered in any capacity to raise your hand. And I think I should give you guys a round of applause, because my work, our work, the conservation that we do, the land protection that we do, the stewardship that we do, it's all possible because of the dedication that you bring to our work. It's huge. It's game changing. So, yes, perfect. So stewardship in yes. So this is stewardship in the new framework. This is a valley garter snake. My brother over there is a herpetology guru and taught me what a snake is. But I took this photo and I thought it was cool. We have kind of 3 different loops within our conservation kind of mission. That's the connect, the care for, and the conserve, right? So enhanced stewardship really kind of fits into the care for and the connect pieces of that loop. I don't know what portion of that is. I like the head. But anyway, that's probably Chris. Chris is that. Anyway, programming for enhanced stewardship really kind of fits pretty squarely, as does all of our programming really, into all 4 of those core values: that love of nature, that discernment, that collaboration, and that perpetuity, especially that perpetuity. Perfect. So now here are some stewardship numbers. We did a lot of work this fall, especially. We had kind of a rocky start, as did I think a lot of us, when it came to in-person gathering, right, the last couple of years. And really it wasn't until early summer that we were like, okay, yeah, it's ready. We can do this. So, and there's not really a ton for people that plant things to do in the summer. So really this fall we picked it up. So total volunteers engaged, we had over 300 people come out over the last few months, really, to come help us with projects. We got over almost 2,000 trees put in the ground. We pulled a ton of weeds. We picked up a lot of trash. We thinned a ton of trees. And over 1,200 hours of volunteer service just in the last few months alone. That's huge. Yes. Yeah, like Todd said, that just speaks volumes to me about how much you all value your lands and how you want to take care of them. I mean, that's just incredible. I mean, I'm blown away daily by by the dedication of our volunteer base, and I'm just so grateful for all of you. We also have our volunteer land steward program, and I'm especially grateful for these folks because they make my job a lot easier. Volunteer land stewards are folks that they go through training with me, they adopt a property, and then they steward that property on an individual kind of basis. And so that helps us to be, to be more effective land managers, to understand the issues that are going on our property, especially properties that we own and manage, things like Waikiki Springs, Marsh Riverside, Salty Uplands Edition, places like that where we really should know what's going on, but we are stretched way too thin because we've got, 22,000 acres of land protected. So they are incredibly valuable extra eyes, ears, hands, and advocates, right, ambassadors of our work. So they're incredibly important to our work. They add a lot of value. We currently have actually 48 volunteer land stewards. We got 2 new trainees. We have, just in the last year, volunteer land stewards dedicated 637 hours of time, which is astounding, and did a ton of work, especially picking up trash and pulling weeds, which are not all that savory of jobs, but that's just how much they care, which is beautiful. So if we could get next slide, that'd be great. Yeah, so if you guys want to volunteer, I'm going to do the same thing as Todd and say, hey, all of you are coming outdoors with me. We have volunteer land steward trainings, so if that kind of program sounds interesting to you, you want to ramp up your stewardship, your stewardship game. We have trainings. Those are all virtual, so you just have to, know how to use Zoom, which we all do now. We have tree thinning projects. Those are going to be both at Waikiki Springs and at Rimrock Riverside. We've got bio blitzes also at both properties there, and weed ID and removal. Pull weeds, folks. Yeah, but those are going to be fun days, and I also bring treats to my work party, so if that's your jam, come for the snacks, stay for the stewardship, right? So, I'll leave you with that. We do have sign-up options at both of our tables. Todd has a sign-up sheet. I have one too. So if you're interested in trail work, head over there. If you want to do some stewardship stuff with me, I'd love to have you out with me in the land. Okay, so I'm so excited, I have the honor to introduce this year's Conservation Hero. Every year, we give out a Conservation Hero Award to someone who is really ramping up the conservation game, right? We have so many incredible partners that, like Dave said, are really amplifying our work, that really are great partners for us. They are changing the game, right? And every once in a while, there's a standout. And so I'd love to introduce that person to you today. I'm going to read from my cards, if that's okay. Our conservation hero hails from Electric City along the Columbia River. He worked in conservation and restoration for over 15 years, the last 12 with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, where he's worked as a private lands biologist with Turnbull Wildlife Refuge. Our conservation hero planned and supported the expansive wetland restoration project at our Rimrock Riverside property and the huge native planting project that followed. This work will deeply improve those wetlands, and that's obviously the most important thing. But it also enabled the Conservancy to build on an existing partnership with the Lands Council and engage over 200 volunteers in that kind of work, which is beautiful. If you don't know him, I hope you get to take a walk with our conservation hero on the land at some point. He is a wealth of knowledge, an incredible teacher, a lifelong learner, a passionate conservationist, and just a really cool guy. And also the hardest worker I think I've ever met, ever. And I work with Todd, so he likes to remove boulders for a living. We and the lands that we care about are so lucky that he's fighting the good fight with us. Please give a huge round of applause for our conservation hero, Brian Walker.
around so we can see your cake?
Well, I have to say it was quite a bit of experience working with Rose on the Rimrock to Riverside project. I remember meeting with 2 landowners out there. I want to say it was in 2019. They asked me out to visit the site and then asked, what can we do? After that, it was 2 years of planning, and then finally we ended up with the permits. We had a great team finally designing what we were going to do. I think in late September of this year, we had a dozer, backhoe, loader, 4 refuge employees, our maintenance staff out there, plus 1 volunteer, our retired refuge equipment operator was out there as well, and myself. We were out there for a week digging in the dirt. We had a blast. It was a lot of fun. Following that, I think we were out there for a solid week pounding in T-posts, putting up fence. Then I think we spent 4 days hauling trees from the refuge and from the Lands Council nursery. And then it culminated in 1,600 trees going in the ground towards the end of October. It was a fantastic experience working with INLC. This was my first experience working with them. I have been working with the Lands Council, Amanda Parish, and Cat Hall for quite a few years on various restoration projects. But I think this one really tied everything together with INLC, with the Lands Council, and then also with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Partners for Fish and Wildlife Program. Speaking of the Partners Program, we are the private lands program for the Fish and Wildlife Service. We are always looking for projects. It sounds like there's some landowners in here that could potentially benefit from something to that effect. You can always ask Rose to get a hold of me. I'm more than happy to come out and take a look at any property that might have a wetland that needs to be restored, trees that need to be thinned, trees that need to be planted. The refuge has a small nursery. I think we've got about 5,000 trees out there that are looking for homes. We've also working with the Lands Council and INLC. We've got a whole lot of volunteers. I think 250 out at Rimrock. Yeah, 250 people came out on a beautiful Saturday afternoon and planted trees. It was a fantastic event. So again, Rose, thank you very much for the award, and thank you very much as well. Look forward to working with you all more in the future.
So as you can see, it really is all about partnerships. And among the partners that are working and generously giving to support our perpetuity, our organization's perpetuity, are our planned givers. I know there are a number of you in the room tonight, and with their help and with Hamilton Studios, this year we put together a video which I think you'll find interesting and inspiring. This event is not an ask, so I'm not going to ask you tonight for a donation or to become a planned giver. But if you're interested in learning more, I encourage you to reach out to me or to the Inovia Foundation. Our endowment is held and managed at the Inovia Foundation. Meg Lindsay is here tonight, who works with Inovia. And you can reach out to them or to us to learn about options for planned gifts.
I'm thinking about the community I really wanted. I had always felt like Spokane was a great place to invest in people and nature and kids.
As I got more involved in the Land Conservancy, I started to realize the importance of what the organization was doing. And that's one of the main reasons why we decided to include the Conservancy in our planned giving.
We went to an attorney that specializes in wills and trust. We just had to figure out who we wanted, both individuals and groups. It was important for me to think of who could have a lasting impact.
It's very eye-opening for folks to realize that I could make an investment now and give away an asset or resources to make an immediate impact now. But when I think about what an endowment does, it creates value and benefit to organizations for generations to come.
It was very easy to make a decision to give part of my estate to INLC. I wanted to do something that would do good.
They're doing the good work. You support what you believe in.
It's an amazing group of people, so it feels like, oh, I get to be a part of something that is really making a difference.
I saw your mapping system. It was when I saw that you were grounded, but you were also seeking.
The Conservancy has grown to where our mission and the values of it say not only will we do conservation easements, but we will now work in preserving land outright. Those types of things are gratifying that you can be a small part of them.
I attended about 3 different investment workshops, so I kept picking up ideas. I read books. The more educational tools that a person like me can get a hold of, the more sure you get that this is the way to go. It's not that difficult. That's the ground level of problem solving, is to get that information.
Go to the office. Let them take you on a tour and let them paint what the future can look like with your help.
Take care of your kids. Take care of your grandkids. Take care of your alma mater or your house of worship. But would you also think about your community? Think about this region. Think about this place that you lived in, where maybe you raised your family, a place where you built your business, a community that you grew to love and deeply care about. Would you plan now to give 5% for your community and the impact that you could have, the way that your legacy could live on long after your lifetime in the form of an endowment or a transformational gift as a part of your legacy?
I can't think of a better way to ensure that the money that I give will be used wisely.
Put your estate where your values are. Ensure that those individuals and groups that are important to you can continue.
Thank you again to the plan givers, some of whom are in the room tonight, who helped us with the video. I'm now really pleased to introduce you to our board president, Tom Bradley, who's going to take care of our official business for the night, our official board business of the night.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to run you quickly through some board activity recently, but before I do that, let me go off script for just a minute. I've been helping INLC in various capacities for the past few years. Before that, I worked for the National Park Service for 40-some years, and I got to be involved with a lot of nonprofits all over the country. And I've got to tell you, and you see it in this room tonight, this is a really good outfit. I mean, it's a good outfit. We're honored to work for it, and I think I speak for all of us on the board when I say that. And to that end, I'd like all the present and past board members to stand up for recognition.
Don't be shy.
I also want to make special recognition of Mitzi Van Voris, who may not be with us tonight, but Mitzi had to step off the board for just time reasons, time commitments, but she was really helpful in particularly communications and marketing. We do have 3 members that are terming off that I'd like to recognize. I'd like you each to come forward and wait, but let me run through those. We have Rod Price, Casey Brazil, and Rob Lindsay. And Rob is particularly to be noted because he's been helping out for the last 7 years on the board in various ways, including the last 2 years as president. So Rod and Rob, come on forward, please.
Your plaque with some recognition.
Thank you. Great job. Oh, thank you, Tom.
Let's give it up.
And as we lose 3, we gain 3. So we just had our elections, and I'm honored to to announce we have 3 new members. I'd like you each to stand. Sandy Emerson, Dave Sontag, and Sally Pritchard. Thank you. And that, Mr. Executive Director, concludes my business.
Well done. Thanks, Tom. Okay, we're going to do a quick transition here, and this is to sow some seeds for how we're going to finish the night off. But those of you new board members who got the assignment and made sense of it, Dave, Sandy, and Sally, along with Rob, if you're ready, if you'd like to come up, and we're going to hear from them about what places make our work especially relevant, and where do they go, or what places do they seek out to deepen their connection with our mission. So we'll hear from Rob Lindsay first. But why don't you all come on up just to make the transitions easier.
Good evening. Thank you very much for being here tonight. It's an honor to represent the board and to have been a part of this organization for so many years. You know, as Tom says, you know, this is truly a remarkable organization, and events like this really cement that in my mind, and just to see how it's grown over the years. Thank you, Carol. And to our friends at home, what I just said is, you rock. This is excellent. So we're going to transition into an exercise today. It's very much like the sticker exercise that maybe some of you have done in a facilitated environment. And so we're going to take a moment, each one of us, to share with you places that resonate with us in the community and why. And so I'm going to kick it off, and then my fellow board members will follow. And so for my part, I enjoy recreation. I enjoy jogging, cycling, hiking, and those sorts of things. And one of the areas that I particularly like to do that is in the Beacon Hill area in Spokane. And I, of course, like so many of you, I've experienced all the trails throughout the community, but I particularly like the Bluff because of the variety of the trails there for a number of recreational purposes, but also for the views. When you're on the top of Beacon Hill, it's almost a complete 360-degree view. And you can look all the way up north into the little Spokane and sweep all the way around across town, and then look across the Spokane Valley, which I'm particularly fond of. I work for Spokane County in the Water Quality Department, so watching the aquifer is key to me. But you know, I love doing that, and then I can sweep around, and I can see Saltese, and then all the way off to the east. And so for me, I'm putting my tag on Beacon Hill because of the fine work that we're doing there in making Beacon public in coordination with Spokane County. There we go. Dave?
All right. All right, well, good evening, everyone. My name is Dave Sontag, and I work at Gonzaga University in communications and marketing, and so honored to be up for a board position here with the Land Conservancy. I grew up in North Idaho, and my family loves the outdoors. I grew up hunting and fishing and hiking and cross-country skiing. And I just love it, and I love being here in Spokane, where I can go mountain biking at a place like Beacon Hill just in a few minutes, or head out to Riverside State Park and fly fish. It's just what I love, and I love doing it, sharing it with my family, and bringing my boys up to enjoy the same things. So really proud to be a part of this, and just want to get up and cheer every time I hear some of those things that have been accomplished. They just mean the world to me. So my place that I chose went hiking at just on Sunday, and that's the Stevens Creek trailhead going up to the rocks of Sharon there. And the reason I love that so much is it's just so close. I live on the south side, and I can't believe how quickly I can get to a place like that. And as I drove up to the trailhead on Sunday and saw, you know, this tree bluff with the rocks rising out of that, I thought about my home back in North Idaho, and I thought, gosh, this looks like a little miniature chimney rock. And how cool is that, that it's just sitting minutes from my home on the South Hill. And then when I hiked up there, I was delighted to find that there was a little bit of snow. You know, and that's what's so cool. It's got just enough elevation that there's still some snow there. My family and friends often get irritated with me because I really love the snow. And when it's winter, I want snow on the ground. I want it to be cold. I didn't like the 60 degrees last week. So I was really happy to get up there and see snow. And I love that it's got its own little microclimate up there. So for me, I'm picking Stevens Creek. There's many others, but that's what I'm going with tonight. So thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Sally Pritchard. As you see, new to the board. I'm somewhat recently, pre-COVID, just right before COVID, I retired and have spent my life working for nonprofits and with nonprofits that provide social services in Spokane. But my goal when I retired was to get into something different. And when Dave called me to say, well, what would you think about a conversation about the Land Conservancy Board? I had to tell him that was on my bucket list. Like when I thought about what I wanted to do when I retired, I looked around at the organizations that we support, and the Land Conservancy was #1. So serendipitous, I don't know what it is, but I'm happy to be here. I did not grow up in Spokane. I grew up in the hot, humid, green Midwest. And I will tell you, when we moved to Spokane, it was hard to get used to. Well, first of all, not being humid was a plus, but that also meant it's dry and brown. But we moved to a house that's a half a mile from the bluff, and I just fell in love with the bluff and really now appreciate living in a dry environment. And that's my place where I go for solace and mental health breaks. And I feel like I know it. I know those trails like I know my backyard because I go and run there. And the benefit now is that the little farmland that I've been worried about for years because they were going to turn it into a development has been acquired by the Coeur d'Alene tribe with the help of the Land Conservancy. So now I'll get to watch how that evolves as I go out on my runs. So the bluff is my special place.
Hello everyone, I'm Sandy Emerson. I'm from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. My wife Jeannie is there in the red. She puts up with me, and there's a lot to be put up with.
Yes.
She would agree. I grew up in North Idaho. I am a land appraiser at this time. I've known Chris Deforest for a good long time. I've tried to retire. I've gotten old enough to do that, and should be smart enough to, I thought, but I'm not very good at that. So I just was, and I do land appraisals, like I said, mostly a lot of conservation easements. I've worked with the Coeur d'Alene tribe, it's been mentioned. I've worked a lot with the Inland Northwest Land Trust, originally, now Conservancy. And I've enjoyed a lot of opportunity through that. I've done a lot on the Coeur d'Alene River. I took a break in the 80s and became the administrative director of the Coeur d'Alene Chamber of Commerce, and I've served as 2 years as the president, chairman of the Idaho Fish and Wildlife Foundation for the state. And so I've got a lot of connections and things that Chris told me would be very valuable when the time comes, so we can go out and hit up some of these landowners. And I love the Coeur d'Alene River. I've done a lot of work on the up at the North Fork on appraisals. And I should go back and say my mom was one of 11 kids on a farm in Rathdrum. So I've kind of have deep roots, went to the University of Idaho. But it's hard to select one of these places to be my favorite because I like the whole North Idaho. part of the benefit of doing what I'm doing on the board, I think, is learning more about Washington side, because there's so much over here. My son actually worked for the Washington State Parks Department a couple of years ago as a parks maintenance supervisor, and he covered all the bases from Turnbull to wherever you want to say over here. So I'm trying to learn more about that, so it's kind of fun. But if anyone here wants to know anything about North Idaho, I'll bet I know something about all the places. I did get to go, if you remember the name Delia Owens, she wrote the book When the Crawdads Sing. I rode with her up into property they were putting into conservation easements up at north of Bonners Ferry, right against the Montana border. They had a ranch in Africa where they took care of, a foundation took care of lions. And so they wanted to do wolves in North Idaho and grizzly bears. So I helped on some of that project. They didn't fit in very good with the Bonners Ferry people, it turned out. But there's some stories that goes with that. But I did get to ride with her on an ATV, and forgive me, we finished dinner. We went up and looked at their property, which bordered, they thought it was all in Montana, but most of it was in Idaho. They weren't from here. And we rode her ATV up to one corner I wanted to see where of the property. Some of it was in Montana, some in Idaho. And it bordered Canada, Montana, and Idaho. So we stopped and I said, forgive me, but this is probably an opportunity not everybody gets. I get to stand with 1 foot Montana, 1 in Idaho, and I could pee into Canada. I didn't do that, but I could have. So anyway, my favorite place, sorry Jeannie, I have appraised for the Conservancy and all the owners in Cougar Bay on Lake Coeur d'Alene. BLM, many of the private landowners, the Crown Pacific, who did the donation and sale to the Nature Conservancy, and virtually the whole bay I have done. So I kind of consider that my own. When I was a kid, we used to canoe over to Cougar Bay and pole through the marsh and follow the sounds of animals and critters out ahead of us. So it's a real special place to me, and you should go there if you haven't. Thank you.
Okay, so that's just a teaser for what's to come at the end of the program. So we're going to move into the last chapter of our night together, and I'm not going to say much because the video that we're so delighted to share really does it far better than I ever could. But I want to acknowledge some partners that are also essential to the work that we do, and those are the Coeur d'Alene tribe, the Kalispel tribe, and the Spokane tribes of Indians on whose Aboriginal lands we gather tonight. And we are really honored to partner with the Spokane tribe of Indians in the management and achievement of a part of their dream for that land and for our region. So we'll let the video tell the story.
Well, I guess I'd ask people to think of the thing that you love the most, or the person that you love the most. That is how you should treat the water. That's how you should treat the land, is with love.
The river gives us our way of life. You know, each of our bands, the upper, the middle, and the lower bands of Spokane people, are named in relationship to the salmon and to the river. So the reintroduction to salmon is so important for that reason.
Today's effort is one of those things that really puts that message out there to people about how important this is.
This partnership begins with the land and the waters and the original people who called this their home.
So the fisheries truck just pulled in. It has 51 amazing healthy salmon in it that are about to go into the watershed. First time in 111 years that salmon have been here. It's just such an amazing welcome back moment and speaks so strongly to the hope for the future that we have.
You know, salmon for us, it's kind of a spiritual experience. Those salmon have a spirit. And, you know, they're just like us.
Those fish have been in the truck for a few hours now, and we would like to get them out safely and efficiently. To make that happen, we are going to net the fish out of the truck and place them into a rubber inner tube. I'd like to invite individuals from the Spokane tribe, our supporters, and the general public to help form that human chain and pass the fish down to those waters.
To know that this is happening in my lifetime, I'm overwhelmed. I'm just overwhelmed. I hope that it just touches your hearts and you guys take in this beautiful experience.
So the Little Spokane River is tremendously important from the historical perspective of not just the tribe, but also of fish. It was one of the major salmon producing streams in the Columbia Basin. And to bring these fish back here, to demonstrate that they can survive and thrive is tremendous. Over the next 2 months, we'll be following these fish using radio tags to figure out what habitats they're using during what stages of their life. So we hope to find the places where they like to spawn and the places where their carcasses will decompose and contribute to the ecosystem.
So much credit to Tribal Fisheries for working so hard on this and doing this amazing thing for our community. The Conservancy is able to be involved because of our recent purchase of the Waikiki Springs Nature Preserve, which is on the other side of the river, and we protected that piece of private property to keep it open to the public in perpetuity. You know, we had generous support through the state legislature that made that happen and great support in the community. And then of course, Washington Fish and Wildlife, which also manages land along this corridor. Just all of those partners coming together to make a moment like this happen is amazing.
Things like this today, as well as our fisheries program and other tribal members becoming educated in natural resources, it's all about connection and it's all about healing. When we lost salmon, as one of our tribal leaders said earlier, we kind of lost a part of ourselves. It's almost like when you lose a loved one and you're hurt, and you know, certain things can heal you. And this is one of the things that's going to help heal the tribe.
I've been here for 10 years now and working on this since I started. You just have to start small. That's what we've done. And here, 10 years later, we're actually putting fish back in the river. And we just hope to keep growing that.
So this is like my second time being with salmon. It definitely feels like you know who you are, you know what I mean? Like, I think my ancestors would be so proud of like what we're doing nowadays.
For these little kids, a 7-pound fish is a monster, and some of these were, you know, 15 and 16 pounds apiece. And seeing their reactions and hearing their giggles and their laughs and their excitement when the fish start splashing in the water, that's just the most amazing thing to me. Obviously, to us, this exceeded all of our expectations.
Spokane's forgotten that it used to be a major salmon stream. And so over the next coming years into the future, we hope to bring those fish back year after year until they're able to reach here on their own volition and contribute to the ecosystem, to the river, to the landscape, and to the people.
Everything seems to need an advocate. We have to speak for the river, and we have to take care of her.
It gives me hope for the future for my son, and it's amazing that he can be here and that he can see it and that we can experience this together.
We have all these beautiful tributaries. We have scientists that are working hard for restoration. We have young people that are becoming biologists. We need our young people and use our traditional tribal knowledge to support that scientific knowledge and really fight for clean water and fight for the salmon.
Mark, you're kind of get up to demonstrate too. Spokane Indian Happy Dance.
For me, the joy in this is seeing the excitement on everybody else's face and how involved they get and feeling those emotions, obviously, that are here. We're the last ones here today. I've been here since 9 o'clock this morning and I can still feel it in the air. And that is what's more important to me than anything else.
Good job. I'll be happy.
Is everyone happy now?
Yeah. Spokane Indian Happy Dance. Love them. Thank you.
That is absolutely an impossible act to follow, but I drew the short straw, so here I am. My name is Corbin. I'm the Director of Philanthropy and Communications for the Conservancy. Last week I was listening to my favorite podcast, Hidden Brain, highly recommend, and the guest was talking about the difference between meaning and purpose, specifically as they relate to an individual's life. And he said that the difference between the two is meaning comes from the past, it comes from history, and purpose is looking towards the future. And it occurred to me that the same is true of land. And I think we saw that very beautifully in this video. The meaning of that place is derived from its history, from the generations of native people that called it home, from the salmon that used to swim in the rivers, from the plants and the animals that lived there. And it occurred to me that right now, we're standing in this moment that is right between the meaning that has been created for hundreds of thousands of years before we stood in this spot, and then the purpose that we have an opportunity to be a part of in the future. What an amazing place to be. The Conservancy is celebrating now 30 years of helping to draw out and recognize the meaning of local lands and waters, and to help build towards a purpose of a brighter future. I love what Tim Pion said in the video about how this is a moment of hope and healing. And we're in a time when we need hope and healing more than anything else. And so I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of that meaning and for being a part of our organizational purpose going into the future. I'd like for you each to take just a moment and think about the places that are meaningful to you here in the Inland Northwest. Places where you've made memories with family. Places where you like to sit and watch a sunset, or see birds on the feeder, or cast your fly rod out into the river. There's going to be staff bringing around your very own meaning stickers. And what I would love for you to do is write just 1 or 2 sentences about that place that means something to you, that place where you have roots and history here in our community. And then once we wrap up, I'll have you put your place on our map of meaning. And then I want to invite you, as you all have, to continue to join the Conservancy in our purpose of hope and of healing, in our purpose to conserve, care for, and connect with lands and waters essential to life in the inland Northwest. Thank you for coming.